I am 73 years old, and before you decide whether to listen to me or move on, I want to tell you something honestly. I am not here to inspire you, and I am not here to sound intelligent or wise. I am here because I no longer have the luxury of pretending. At this age, you stop performing. You stop decorating the truth. You stop caring whether people agree with you or not. What matters now is saying the things that should have been said long ago, especially to people who still believe they have all the time in the world. What I'm about to say may make you uncomfortable. That's not my intention, but discomfort is often the price of truth. Everything you think you know about getting older is wrong. Not exaggerated, not outdated, completely wrong. The story you've been told about life, how it's supposed to unfold, what matters, what you should chase, what you should delay, is deeply flawed. And the most dangerous part is that the people who passed this story down to you didn't mean to lie. They were repeating what they themselves were taught, never realizing how much it would cost them. I believed that story for most of my life. I believed that responsibility meant postponing joy. I believed that hard work now would buy freedom later. I believed that once I reached a certain level of success, peace would naturally follow. I believed that life was something you prepared for first and lived afterward. And because everyone around me believed the same thing, I never questioned it. I assumed that this constant pressure, this quiet exhaustion, this feeling that life was always happening somewhere in the future, that this was normal. By my early 50s, I thought I had won. I had the career people respected. I had the house that impressed visitors. I had stability, predictability, and a reputation for being reliable. From the outside, my life looked complete. People used words like successful when they talked about me. I wore those words like armor. They protected me from asking dangerous questions. Questions like, am I happy? Or is this really my life? I was busy, constantly busy. Meetings, deadlines, responsibilities, expectations. My calendar was full, and I told myself that meant my life was full too. Whenever doubt crept in, usually late at night when the house was quiet, I pushed it away by reminding myself that this was just the price of adulthood. One day, I told myself things would slow down. One day, I would finally have time. Then one ordinary day, everything stopped. I wasn't doing anything dramatic. No emotional moment. No warning sign. I was sitting in a conference room, listening to people debate quarterly numbers that would be forgotten within months. I remember feeling impatient, distracted, slightly annoyed that the meeting was running long. And then something strange happened. My chest tightened, not sharply, but heavily, like someone had placed a weight directly over my heart. The room didn't spin immediately. It tilted, slowly, as if reality itself was losing balance. I tried to speak, but my voice didn't cooperate. My hands felt distant, disconnected from my body. The last clear thought I had was embarrassingly small. I remember thinking, this is a bad time for this to happen, as if the universe cared about my schedule. The next thing I knew, I was waking up under harsh lights. The smell of antiseptic filled the air. Machines beeped rhythmically beside me, and for a moment, I didn't know where I was, or who I was. Then I saw my wife sitting near the bed, her eyes red, her hands clasped tightly together, as if holding herself together through sheer will. That was the moment I understood how close I had come to not waking up at all. The doctors used careful language. They always do. Cardiac event, they called it. A phrase that sounds manageable, almost polite. But what it really meant was that my heart had tried to end my life. They told me I was lucky. That timing, quick response, and medical intervention had saved me. They smiled when they said it, as if luck were something you could casually brush off. But lying there, unable to move freely, stripped of routine and control, something terrifying became clear. If I had died that day, my life would have ended exactly where it was, unfinished, unexamined, and largely unlived. That realization hit harder than the physical pain. Because when everything else was taken away, my phone, my schedule, my sense of importance, I was left alone with my thoughts. And for the first time in decades, I actually listened to them. I saw my life not as a series of achievements, but as a collection of postponed moments. Conversations delayed, dreams deferred, relationships maintained at the bare minimum. I realized I had been living on autopilot. I had mistaken movement for meaning. I had assumed that being busy meant being valuable. I had measured my life in years spent working rather than moments spent living. And the most painful part was knowing how easily it could have ended without ever truly beginning. People like to think death announces itself. It doesn't. It interrupts you in the middle of ordinary days. It doesn't wait until you're ready. It doesn't care about your plans. And when it comes close, close enough for you to feel its breath, you suddenly understand how fragile everything you've been postponing really is. That's when I understood the most dangerous lie of all. I have time. I had told myself that sentence in 1,000 different ways. I'll travel later. I'll slow down later. I'll reconnect later. I'll focus on what matters when things settle. But things never settle. Life doesn't pause to let you catch up. It keeps moving, quietly subtracting days while you convince yourself you're accumulating years. Lying in that hospital bed, I realized how casually I had gambled with my life. How confidently I had assumed tomorrow was guaranteed. And how expensive that assumption truly was. When I was discharged, people congratulated me. They told me I had been given a second chance. But what they didn't understand was that the real shock wasn't surviving. The shock was seeing how close I had come to dying without ever asking whether the life I was protecting was worth saving. That question followed me home. It followed me into quiet mornings and sleepless nights. It followed me into conversations that suddenly felt shallow and routines that felt unbearable. I couldn't unsee what I had seen. I couldn't unknow what I now knew. And that was the beginning of everything changing. There is a strange myth people believe about regret. They think it comes from failure, from mistakes, from things going wrong. That is not true. Failure hurts, yes, but it heals. Mistakes teach lessons. Even humiliation fades with time. What does not fade are the moments you never lived, the words you never spoke, and the chances you were too afraid or too distracted to take. Those are the things that follow you into old age and sit beside you in the quiet hours. When people ask me what I regret most, they expect me to mention business decisions or career choices. They expect stories about deals that failed or opportunities that slipped away. But those things barely register now. They don't wake me up at night. They don't tighten my chest or bring tears to my eyes. What hurts are the smaller moments that seemed unimportant at the time and turned out to be everything. I regret the evenings I came home exhausted and emotionally unavailable. I regret the times my children asked me to play or talk, and I said, later, believing later was guaranteed. I regret how often I was physically present but mentally elsewhere. My mind still stuck in meetings and problems that no longer exist. I regret the dinners eaten quickly, the conversations half listened to, the hugs cut short because I was already thinking about what came next. You don't realize how much of your life slips away in pieces like that. Not in dramatic losses, but in tiny withdrawals that don't feel significant until you check the balance and realize what's gone. I had a friend, brilliant, disciplined, admired by everyone around him. He built a company from nothing into something impressive, worked endlessly, missed birthdays, anniversaries, weekends. He told himself he was doing it for his family. That one day, when everything was secure, he would finally slow down. One day never came. He died at 68 after a stroke, still talking about future plans he would never live to see. At his funeral, his son stood up to speak. His voice was calm, but his words cut through the room. He said, "My father was respected by many people, but I barely knew him." No one moved. No one coughed. No one shifted in their seat. That sentence hung in the air like smoke. And I realized something chilling. Admiration is not love. Respect is not connection. And success is not presence. We spend our lives chasing approval from people who don't truly matter, while neglecting relationships that do. We sacrifice irreplaceable moments for replaceable achievements. And we tell ourselves it's necessary, responsible, noble even. But deep down, something always feels off. Another lie we believe is that success will finally make us feel whole. It won't. Success gives you a brief emotional high, 48 hours, maybe less. Then your mind adapts. The achievement becomes normal. The satisfaction fades. And suddenly, you need the next goal. A bigger title, more money, greater recognition. You don't stop to ask why you're chasing anymore. You just keep running. I ran like that for decades. I climbed ladders without asking where they were leaning. I measured my worth by productivity and praise. I thought rest had to be earned and joy had to be justified. And the longer I lived that way, the harder it became to imagine another way of living. The cost of that mindset doesn't appear immediately. It accumulates slowly, quietly, in the background, until one day, You realize you don't know your own children as adults. You don't know what your spouse is thinking because you haven't truly listened in years. You don't even know yourself because you've been performing a role for so long you forgot who you were before it. My father's death was one of the clearest mirrors of this truth. We had a complicated relationship, not hostile, but distant. Life always seemed to get in the way. I told myself we would talk more when things slowed down. I postponed conversations because they felt uncomfortable or inconvenient. I assumed there would be time to fix what wasn't broken enough to demand urgency. Then one afternoon, he was gone. A heart attack. Sudden. Final. No warning. No second chance. No opportunity to say the things I had rehearsed in my head but never spoken aloud. I stood there afterward, surrounded by condolences, realizing that every later I had promised myself had expired. What haunted me most were not the big arguments or disagreements. It was the ordinary Sundays I didn't call, the dinners I skipped, the moments I chose ease over effort. Those memories became heavier with time, not lighter. Because once someone is gone, you can no longer change the ending of your story with them. People don't warn you about this part of aging. They talk about physical decline, about slowing down, about health. But they don't talk about the emotional weight of memory, about how the past becomes sharper, not duller, about how regret doesn't shout, it whispers, persistently, in moments of silence. After my heart attack, something shifted permanently. I couldn't return to pretending everything was fine. I couldn't unsee how fragile time truly is. I began saying no to things that once felt mandatory, not because they were bad, but because they were empty. And for the first time, I began saying yes to things that scared me, not dramatic risks, but emotional ones. I spent more time with people, even when it was inconvenient. I made phone calls instead of sending quick messages. I listened without rushing to respond. I allowed silence to exist in conversations. These changes didn't feel productive in the traditional sense, but they felt alive. And that's when I understood something else no one teaches you. Life doesn't punish you for waiting. It simply moves on without you. There is no alarm that rings when you've postponed too much. No warning sign that tells you you've crossed the line where later becomes never. One day, you just wake up older and realize entire chapters have passed without your presence. I look at young people now, especially those in their 20s, 30s, even 40s, and I see the same tension I once carried. The same urgency, the same belief that their situation is unique, that the old rules don't apply anymore. They are exhausted, anxious, chasing validation through achievement, convinced that rest and joy are things they'll unlock someday. I want to shake them sometimes, not out of anger, but fear. Fear that they are trading their lives away in installments, just as I did. Fear that they will wake up one day wondering where the years went. I see it in my grandchildren too. They live in a storm of expectations and noise. Always connected, rarely present. Always moving, rarely reflecting. I try to tell them what I've learned. But wisdom is hard to receive when urgency drowns everything else out. You can't hear the lesson until life slows you down enough to make space for it. That's why I keep speaking. That's why I keep telling this story. Because maybe, just maybe, someone will hear it early enough to choose differently. You are not promised time. Not with your parents. Not with your partner. Not with your children. Not with your friends. And certainly not with your own body. Every relationship you value exists on borrowed time. Every moment you postpone is a moment you may never get back. The cruel irony is that we treat the most precious thing we have, time, as if it were renewable. It isn't. And once you understand that, truly understand it, you don't live the same way again. There comes a point in life when fear changes shape. When you are young, fear is loud. It shouts about failure, embarrassment, and rejection. It warns you about not being good enough, not having enough, not becoming enough. But as you grow older, fear grows quieter and heavier. It stops shouting and starts sitting beside you. It whispers instead. It asks questions you can't distract yourself from. Questions like, is this really how I wanted to live? And what did all that effort actually give me? I didn't begin living intentionally until I understood something most people never fully accept. Time is not just limited. It is disappearing faster than you think. We all know this intellectually, but knowing something in your head and knowing it in your bones are very different things. For most of my life, death was an abstract idea, something that happened to other people, something distant. But once it brushed past me, once I felt how quickly everything could end, Time stopped feeling endless and started feeling precious. Every morning now, when I wake up, there is a quiet awareness that accompanies me. It isn't panic. It isn't sadness. It's clarity. I know that today matters. Not in some dramatic, world-changing way, but in a deeply personal one. This day will never come again. The people I see today will never be this age again. I will never be this version of myself again. That awareness alone changes how you move through the world. I no longer rush through conversations just to reach the next task. I no longer treat time with people I love as something that must be squeezed in between obligations. I listen differently. I look differently. I notice things I once ignored, the way laughter sounds in a room, the comfort of silence shared with someone who knows you well, the small rituals that give days their shape. What surprises most people when they hear me talk like this is that they assume it comes from sadness or regret. It doesn't. It comes from gratitude. Gratitude that I was forced to wake up before it was too late. Gratitude that I was given years I didn't know I would have. Gratitude that I still get to choose how I spend my time. That choice is something many people give away without realizing it. They live according to urgency instead of intention. They let deadlines, expectations, and comparisons dictate their days. They confuse motion with progress and noise with meaning. They tell themselves they'll slow down after this phase, after this goal, after this responsibility passes. But life does not work in phases. It works in moments, and moments do not wait for permission. If I could go back and speak to my younger self, the man in his 30s who believed exhaustion was a badge of honor, I wouldn't lecture him. I wouldn't scare him. I would simply ask him one question: who are you doing all this for? And then I would wait, because that question has a way of breaking through noise. Most of us are not chasing what we truly want. We are chasing what we were taught to want: approval, status, security beyond what we actually need. And in doing so, we trade away parts of our lives that can never be replaced. Health, presence, connection, joy. I am not telling you to abandon responsibility. I am not telling you to quit your job or ignore reality. Bills must be paid. Commitments matter. But there is a vast difference between being responsible and being consumed. There is a difference between working to support your life and sacrificing your life to support your work. After my heart attack, I began asking myself simple but uncomfortable questions. Does this matter? Will this matter in 5 years? Will I remember this moment when I am old? Those questions became filters, and through those filters, many things simply fell away. What remained was embarrassingly simple: time with people I love, work that feels honest, experiences that expand me instead of impress others, creating memories rather than collecting possessions, being present instead of being productive for the sake of productivity. None of this made me richer in the traditional sense, but it made my life feel full for the first time. I travel now, not to escape my life, but to experience it more deeply. I pursue hobbies that bring no recognition and no income, only quiet satisfaction. I say, I love you, without hesitation or calculation. I forgive more easily, not because people deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I let go of grudges I once carried like trophies, not realizing how heavy they were. And perhaps the greatest shift of all is this: I no longer postpone joy. Joy does not need permission. It does not need perfect timing. It does not require everything else to be finished first. Joy is not something you earn after suffering enough. It is something you choose to allow alongside responsibility. Waiting for joy is one of the most efficient ways to miss your life entirely. People often ask me if I'm afraid of dying. The honest answer is no. What I'm afraid of is how many people die without ever really living. How many people reach the end still waiting for the life they plan to start someday. I look back now and see the irony clearly. When I thought I had all the time in the world, I wasted it. Now that I know time is limited, I treasure it. Understanding that your days are numbered does not make life darker. It makes it brighter. It sharpens colors. It deepens love. It makes ordinary moments feel sacred. You do not need a crisis to learn this. You do not need to wait for loss, illness, or regret to wake you up. You can choose now, today, in this moment. Call the person you keep meaning to call. Take the trip you keep postponing. Start the project you keep doubting yourself out of. Say no to what drains you. Say yes to what scares you in the right way. Stop waiting for the perfect time, because it does not exist. Life will always be complicated. There will always be reasons to delay. But if you let those reasons run your life, one day you will wake up and realize you delayed everything that mattered. I am 73 years old. If I am lucky, I may have 10 or 15 more years. Perhaps a little more if fortune is kind. Perhaps less. I don't know. None of us do. But I know this. These last years have been the richest of my life. Not because they are easy, but because they are intentional. I do not measure my days by productivity anymore. I measure them by presence, by whether I showed up fully, by whether I paid attention, by whether I expressed love instead of assuming it was understood. And that is what I want for you. Do not wait 50 years to learn what can be learned now. Do not sacrifice your health, your relationships, and your joy to impress people who will not remember your sacrifices. Do not trade your life away in the name of someday. Someday is not coming. Someday is today. And one day, sooner than you think, today will be all you have left. If you are listening to this and something inside you feels uncomfortable, that is not fear, it is recognition. It is the part of you that knows this is true. Listen to it. Let it guide you. Let it change how you live while you still can. Time is moving. The clock does not pause. The question is not how much time you have left. The question is, what are you going to do with it?